Madam Chair, we have a quorum. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Hot Springs Village POA Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, November 20th, starting at 9 o'clock. All are here with the exception of Diana Podewils, who has an excused absence today. I'd like to ask the audience if they would kindly silence their cell phones for the meeting. Thank you. And we'll start off with a prayer. Buddy is going to announce the prayer leader today,
Yes.
Followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike will announce the pledge leader today. Thank you.
This morning, to lead our prayer, we're going to ask Deacon John Froning from Sacred Heart Catholic Church to lead our prayer. John?
I have to have my solo. Okay, if we would just bow our heads, put ourselves in. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear
Yes.
you. It is? Okay. Good and gracious God, loving Father, as we gather here this morning, we acknowledge that all we have and all we are is a gift from you. And so we pause first just to thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed on us. We thank you for the veterans, the men and women who serve our country in order to protect our freedom. We ask you to watch over and protect each one of them. And we thank you for this board of directors who have freely given of their time and talent to ensure that our home, Hot Springs Village, continues to grow and thrive. And we thank you for all the staff who daily strive to keep our dream running smoothly. We ask you, Father, to fill our board with your Holy Spirit, a spirit of wisdom, of right judgment, so that as they discuss today's business, you may guide them to make decisions that benefit all of us. And all of this we ask in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
I've asked retired Major General Thomas Arwood to lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point in the agenda, I'd like to welcome any guests, and I'd like to start by welcoming Gary Troutman. Gary, are you here today? I'm told he may not have made it yet. I was told that Mr. Troutman, who is the president and CEO of the Hot Springs Chamber, would be here today, and so when he comes, if he comes, please welcome him. Any other guests that need to be introduced today? Okay, very good. I'll call for a motion to approve the order of business.
Madam Chair.
No, we need a motion. And a second?
Second.
Madam Chair, I'd like to remove item number 14 from the new business, number 14 under new business regarding the meeting policy modification.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all those in favor of removing item 14 from the agenda under new business, please signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. No item 14 today. Does any director want to move any item from the consent agenda to new or current business? Hearing none, the consent agenda includes approving the October 16th regular meeting minutes, the October 28th and November 12th executive session minutes, the November 5th special meeting minutes, the standing committee minutes as follows: ACC of October 3rd, October 17th, CNP Advisory Committee of October 11th, Golf of October 15th, Governmental Affairs of October 4th, Lakes of October 9th, Public Services of October 17th, Recreation of October 14th, Ad hoc 50th Anniversary Committee of August 12th, September 9th, October 7th. The ratification of the board approval of the Waste Management Agreement, the COO report, the CMEO report, the appointment of Thomas Gale Smith to the Public Services Committee, the appointment of Mike Mish to the Governance Committee, and the appointment of Guy Richardson to the Trails Committee. At this point, I move to adopt the consent agenda. Any objection? Hearing no objection, the consent agenda is adopted. Moving on to item 8, the CEO Corporate Secretary report. Ms. Nally.
Okay, thank you. I'll give my report first, and then there are a couple of items that we'll go into later there on the agenda. But first, just wanted to mention, Liz will dive deeper into our financial overview, but our year-to-date net operating gain before capital and depreciation is $309,000 less than the same time in 2018. Our equity membership equity remains strong and ahead of 2018 by just under $1 million. And we currently expect to meet or exceed our December 2018 membership equity level. Village Homes and Land activity, and just a reminder, we will be closing that out at the end of the year, but we'll continue to report this month and next month. You see the homes sold there. The Builders Guild pre-sales closed and under contract, the number of PLA lots sold. And most importantly, I'm happy to report that our 19 lots in the Ciega neighborhood were closed last week. And so we're celebrating that achievement and that win. We're very excited to see that take off. In other village real estate stats, new home permits as of the end of October were lagging behind last year a few. But Buddy, I understand, I've seen now we're at 54 new home permits, so that's nice. And it's still a little bit under where we ended last year, but we are still outpacing our previous 6+ years on new home permits. Existing home sales are outpacing the last 5 years. And as of the end of October, there were 217 homes listed at an average sale price of $259,000. Another important item of interest is Jamie, Kevin, Stephanie, and I met with the area brokers. You'll remember we talked about what will we be doing post Village Homes and Land. And this was the meeting to discuss the 3-year pilot project to try to come to some sort of partnership, if you will, on how we continue moving our real estate sales and lot sales and getting homes built. Ultimately, our goal is to add 2,500 rooftops by 2020. We had a very productive meeting. We actually have the framework for a program, and we'll continue to work on that, keep the board posted on that. Broadband, you all saw the Voice and the Sentinel Records coverage, what's transpired in the broadband arena. And we're happy to report that the state broadband manager is reconsidering the earlier position that said that unincorporated communities would not be included in the Governor's Rural Connect Fund. And I know there's been a little bit of confusion about this, this question of, are we incorporated, unincorporated? And there's 2 terms, I think, that apply here that I just want to make sure we all are kind of using correctly. When we talk in city and state government about unincorporated areas, we are talking about areas basically they're not taxing authorities, right? They're not recognized as municipalities. That's a different conversation than how were we legally structured in 1970. And in 1970, we were legally structured, as you know, as a nonprofit corporation. So 2 different terms there. Sometimes people, and I didn't want those to get confused when we're talking on the broadband subject. We're talking about the fact that we aren't a municipality. And because of that, we often get overlooked for opportunities for outside funding. And this would have been one of those places that we got overlooked. And so I'm very, very appreciative to Senator Bill Sample, Senator Jason Rapert, Justice of the Peace Keith Keck, Saline County Judge Jeff Airy, each of whom made very compelling remarks, asked very good questions in a committee meeting that addressed this subject. And the result was that they are changing those rules to include unincorporated areas. So that's good news. Yeah. I'm also happy to report on the broadband front. I don't want to get out in front of the headlights on Liz, but I understand word on the street is that the IT staff are very, very close to achieving the enterprise goal of making sure that the Coronado Center area and this complex are fully equipped with Wi-Fi. And Liz, am I correct, when this area is fully equipped, it will encompass Grove Park? Would you mind just briefly to speak to what it encompasses on both sides?
At this area, it'll cover both buildings here as well as the parking lot and Grove Park and that kind of extended area. And we've had public Wi-Fi here, but this is going to be an improved service with higher speeds that'll actually handle a crowd in the audience of Woodlands and things like that. And at the Coronado Center complex, it'll be the same thing. It'll cover all of the buildings, parking lot, kind of general area, tennis courts around that area.
Excellent. So we're excited about that. On the marketing front, we've enjoyed several earned media mentions in the last few weeks. Where to Retire featured us in their Finding a City That Appeals to Grandchildren list. And so I want to publicly thank the Clem and Kircher families for sharing their stories. They were integral in getting our story out there by telling their own story. Also, Southern Living listed us as one of the South's best retirement towns. And I want to thank our Chief Member Experience Officer, Jamie Caperton, for leading some much needed refinements to our marketing program and continuing to get us focused. And also our marketing manager, Paul Sage, who you'll meet in just a moment. And I am encouraged about how we're positioning ourselves in the marketplace to capitalize on our 50th anniversary. And on that note, I want to share something concerning that I was briefed on this morning by a concerned property owner who contacted me and indicated that they had evidence that a public website that's devoted to talking about Hot Springs Village is deleting posts, censoring posts. And, you know, as we get ready to spend over $250,000 to further our marketing efforts, especially in light of our 50th anniversary, I just really, again, call on all of us, and I'm going to include myself in this, but call on all of us to be very, very careful, because we are driving so much traffic to discovering and rediscovering Hot Springs Village, and we would hate to see those things be, you know, undermined in that way. So I'll leave that there. I don't have all the details. I did ask Cheryl if I could speak with her earlier, and she didn't have time at the moment, but I will be checking further on that.
Would you like
And
to speak with
so-
me now, Nally?
No, thank you,
Okay.
Cheryl. So then moving on to the fire department. Where is Chief Miller? Oh, there you are, Chief. Chief Miller, I want to applaud the fire department. Each year they conduct building inspections throughout the village, and they're doing that again right now. How many buildings? He's going to come here and tell us how many buildings. But while he's coming, I just want to encourage all of us and the community to take a look through their businesses and homes to identify potential fire and safety hazards. Chief, how many buildings?
Just over 400.
Just over 400 buildings that they're performing inspections on. These gentlemen do a fine job, so thank you for that. Any questions on my report before we move on? Okay.
Oh, sorry. That's okay. Nobody has any. I had a couple of questions. So on Village Homes and Lands, we have met our goal of 30 lots, then is what you're saying?
Yes, we have.
For the year. Okay, I wanted to make certain that was made known. Buddy, you updated where at 54 home permits?
54.
54, I jumped from 42 that was in the report. That's quite considerable. Oh, so that would be Ciega?
52 last time, and we've got, and we got 2 more in this week that ACC will approve in the morning.
That takes us from 42 to 54? That's 12.
As of October.
Okay, all right, so 12 in the month.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
as of their meetings at that time.
Okay, all right, very good. So 54, yeah, that, which is more than, okay, got it. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah.
Seemed like quite a jump. With regard to broadband, what would you advise property owners relative to whether they should contact their legislators at this point about broadband issues?
I would say if you make contacts at this point, please thank Senator Sample, Senator Raper, and our other elected officials who have actually gotten that tide shifted for us currently. And as we see the new rules, we will certainly keep the community posted. If we have any other concerns, we will again rally the community. But let's, maybe take a pause and thank everyone for their contributions there.
It's going to take a little while for this to filter through. Bill Sample's got 2 years left, I believe. So,
can't hear you.
Huh?
Can't hear you.
Something's wrong with this
microphone.
Yeah, it's covered. Oh, there you go, but it was, okay.
Bill Sample has 2 years left, and he is a vital part of a lot of things that we try to get done here. So I'm hoping that his working behind the scenes with the different folks, Judge Barry of Saline County, who's also been an integral part of this, so that we can get this done. I think it's really a very important issue to Hot Springs Village. And so whatever we can get done in the next year or two, I won't be around to see it, but I'm hoping that it gets done because broadband is critical to us.
I don't like the way
You'll
you
be
said that.
around, Mike.
Well, I won't be sitting here.
Thank you. Back up. He said that before.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to move to here to do our recognition, if there are no other questions. Okay. and I'm sorry, board, I'm talking to you as well, but we want to make sure these fine gentlemen get their full and just recognition. In 2017, we set out to address some serious deferred maintenance items related to our lift station. And I know Mike Medica and John Weidert will remember well the conversations that we were having with the board at the time about these things. And Jason, at that time we thought we had 67 lift stations. Come to find out, we double counted one, right? But so 66, but only 7 of those lift stations were fully functional. 7 of 66 lift stations. And so our current Chief Operating Officer, Jason Temple, under his leadership, in 2 years' time, we have brought 100% of those up to full functioning capability. So I first want to applaud and all of us to give a round of applause to Mr. Temple for his leadership in correcting this long deferred maintenance. But he certainly didn't do it by himself. He had a whole team of professionals there side by side with him. And so I'm going to turn things over to Jason and have him recognize the individual team members. Jason?
Thank you very much, Leslie. For each of the team members here, we have a certificate. Outstanding service. It's a wonderful, beautiful certificate. Very, very nice. Thank you, Ella, and everyone that helped make these. It says Recognition Award for Outstanding Teamwork and Bringing All Major Lift Stations Fully Functional Status in Satisfaction of Our Enterprise Goals. And so I'd like to recognize each one of these by awarding them here. We first off with Lane Ragsdale. Lane is one of our master electricians. Next. Mike Rourke, who's also one of our master electricians. Junior Garrett, he can just operate anything and build anything. Mark Johnson is his trusty assistant. Kenny Neighbors, another great operator. Jason Blake, another one of our master electricians. James Wallace. James has been here for over 4 years and is one of our apprentices to become a licensed electrician, all because of his employment here at the village. Great career opportunity. Eddie King, he's our youngest, just recently came over from the water treatment plant, great help. And the leader of this group is Wesley Carpenter. He's our superintendent over the construction and electrical. He's also a master electrician. And his award also says, Recognition Award for Outstanding Leadership in Bringing All Major Lift Stations to Fully Functional Status and Satisfaction of Enterprise Goals. I'd just like to take a moment to sing these guys' praises just a little bit more. Just some of the things that they did over this 2-year period was, in my opinion, phenomenal. It takes a team to do a humongous infrastructure goal like this. I don't know if you realize that we have over 60 lift stations. They have multiple pumps in them, and to be fully functional, everything, every pump, every control system has to work. It's taken 2 years to bring all your lift stations up to that status. And in that process, every time they fixed the lift station, they had to keep it running fully functional for 2 years. Not only that, they had to keep up with the everyday work. They had to go fix your residential grinder pumps at your homes. They had to put in new water systems, new sewer systems, and new simplex pumps for all the new homes that were here. On top of that, they took on a couple of special projects. You remember the RV park last year in 2018? They put a lift station in, all the electrical, all the sewer. This year, I squeezed 2 more special projects out of these guys. Along with these enterprise goals, we did the Medeiros Gardens utilities, and we did the electrical on the Sega Lane project. So these guys went way beyond their job duties to not only keep up with their everyday, plus a few extra projects, and meet this enterprise goals. I just truly so proud of you guys. And it's an honor to work with you.
Enjoy your day. I'm sure he has another project. Okay. Also, then, the next item, Madam Chair, if it's fine, I'd like to invite our Chief Member Experience Officer, Jamie Caperton, and our new Marketing Manager, Paul Sage, up. Jamie would like to introduce you in the community to our new marketing czar, as I like to call him.
That's a good one to have to follow. All right. Okay, well, thanks for having us up here. This is Paul Sage. And for all of you folks from Texas and Louisiana, you're going to love him. You know, he got his first degree, his Bachelor of Arts in English from Louisiana State University. Woohoo! And then his Master's of Business Administration with an emphasis in marketing from SMU. So all you Texas folks are going to love that. You can tell that accent, I got it just special for you there. And then from there, he got to go and do some great work with the Richards Group in Dallas, which was one of my favorites that worked with me on another project in Dallas. Then on to Altel and Verizon Wireless, ABC Financial, Axiom Corporation in Little Rock. And then he took on a great task of being a teacher. After that, an instructor in marketing with the University of Phoenix. So he's been around the block a few times here. Then media management, account director with Chesterfield, Missouri. Like I said, we got some great stuff here. Then he was a private consultant, did Sage Advice for a while. And then recently we stole him away from Conway Regional Health System. And now he's here with us to do some great work. He hit the ground running for the last few weeks with us, and we haven't let him out of his office long enough to do anything. But he's already gotten some great placements for us, doing some good work, and we're doing some good stuff to get the word out about the village. And so we're excited to have him here with us.
Thank you.
Welcome, Paul.
Okay, very good. Next up, CFO Liz Mathis and the Treasurer's Report. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go into my financial report, I just kind of wanted to share with you guys a little bit of something different we're doing on the member services side. So in my department, we have the accounting team, but we also have the member services team, which is all that staff at the front desk and helps with our annual renewal process is one of the big things. And that is coming up very quickly. It'll start December 2nd, which is a Monday, and run through the end of January. And so that week, probably on December 2nd, there'll be packets hitting the mailboxes of every property owner with their payment coupons for the year and things like that. In addition to the annual renewal form, which we will mail everybody, we have put together just kind of a quick little brochure about all of our annual pass items. And so this kind of goes into explanation of the passes and registrations and what they include and what comes with them. And on all of those goodies, there's even some new stuff about some entertainment packages here at the Woodlands, concert series type things that you can buy subscriptions for and things like that. So we're really excited about this. That'll be coming in mailboxes soon. So just wanted to share that a little bit with you guys. So on our financial report, I'm looking at page 2, going through the dashboard, looking at the statement of financial position. You'll see that our cash available for operations is down about $1.9 million. And our overall total cash and cash equivalents is down about $798,000. So I just wanted to kind of go through some of the whys behind that to make sure everybody is clear on those. As far as the total cash and cash equivalents being down, you'll notice also that $520,000 of that was in the sewer bonds that were spent in the last year when you're looking at that comparative. So we took out those bonds in 2016 and had deadlines to spend those, and that has all been spent on wastewater infrastructure improvements. $1.5 million of the total difference, which hit that cash available for operations, is money that we moved into reserves. So that was our savings plan, putting that aside and setting it aside. There's about $400,000 then of that's down, and that is capital spending that had been deferred for several years. We rolled some of those escrow funds into budgets for dredging and projects like that. And so it does, I mean, when you first look at it, you kind of go, oh no, our cash is way down, but there are very good reasons behind that. A little bit further down the page, our number of delinquent properties has decreased by 65 since December of last year. We're kind of hitting some sticking points on some of those, but we continue to push and try to send out letters every month and continue third-party collection efforts as well. On the liability side, our long-term debt has decreased $810,000 since this time last year, and our overall liabilities have decreased $1.38 million. So our cash went down, but so did our liabilities. We've been paying off things and doing some of that stuff as well. So our total property owner equity is $980,000 above where it was this time last year. On page 3, we're looking at our revenue. Administration, Public Works, Lakes, Food and Beverage, and Recreation all show increased revenue over the prior year. Total net revenue is about 77% of the budget and $197,000 less than 2018. We talked a little bit about the improved properties, and there's 52 new improved properties since this time last year. So we talked a little bit about the permits, but this is also when the houses get completed that they do that. Discovery packages, had 75 so far this year, with 7 conversions so far in 2019, which gives us an 11.6% overall conversion rate, which is within the targeted range that we're looking for. On the next page, looking at some of the other revenue items, public utilities, we're looking at 9 out of 12 months. They're a little bit tracking behind, about $59,000. And if you roll that forward a little bit, we may be around $150,000 under our budgeted revenue for that. But Jason and his team are working to adjust for that. Golf, we've been talking about this all year. I did want to point out that October rounds were 843 rounds more than the previous year. So they made up 843 rounds in October. Overall, the rounds are still down a little over 9,000 rounds, mostly in resident daily and resident annual rounds. Accompanied member guest and the golf package rounds show increases from the prior year. Just overall, looking at the golf. Yes.
Sure.
Overall, looking at golf subsidy is about $211,000 more than it was this time last year, but it's only $100,000 more than our budgeted subsidy. So I just really want to give kudos to Tom and Gary both in a very difficult revenue year for making the cuts and working with that number to try to cut back and make sure that we come pretty close to our bottom line goal. And food and beverage, I just kind of made a note in there to look at some of these restaurants actually do show some operating revenue improvements over the prior year, and I kind of wanted to look at what was that growth percentage on some of those. And so Magellan Deli has shown a 17% revenue growth, Balboa Club a 15% revenue growth, Ponce, the bar here at the Woodlands, has 24% revenue growth, and Granada Grill has 4%. So they really have been working hard at those restaurants to try to improve their operations, and increased sales is a good indicator of that. Overall, the administration, public safety, public works, lakes, and recreation departments are all on target or ahead of their revenue for the year. So as far as comparison to budget. On the next page, we start talking a little bit about expenses. Administration, community development and marketing, public works, and golf all show reduced operating expenses. And overall, operating expenses about 75% of our budget and $111,000 more than 2018. Net, It's an overall decrease to the bottom line, about $309,000. And we're just kind of working and managing that the best we can. And again, we may be able to make up some of that ground in the last 2 months of this year as well. If you want to go to the very last page then and look at that forecast. We are still on target to meet our reserves goals and have the cash available to roll the $450,000 for the streets program into next year. This is using some really, really conservative estimates. I actually think we'll probably see some improvements to this number, largely because some of what we may be looking at spending-wise, we may end up doing rollover if projects aren't finished capital-wise, but we should still have the funds available to pay for those projects, even if they're not totally completed by December 31st. Now I'll open it up for questions. Tormy?
What do you attribute, let's go back to golf for just a second. The revenue per round, or let's say, the revenue per round has dropped, but in reality, from what I heard you say, I thought was, our guest rounds are up, which I would expect to be a higher revenue per round, and our resident rounds are down. That would lead me to think that our actual revenue per round, which was $27 and some odd cents, would have been higher than last year.
The revenue per round, I will say, is up at several courses. This is looking at a consolidated point of view, but in theory, you're right. The problem is that the resident rounds are down so much greater than the outside rounds are up. So they're weighting it more heavily.
Yeah, but the further revenue rounds drop, the further member rounds drop, it ought to have just the reverse impact on the overall number. When you look at the 2717 versus the 2755, I think.
So also keep in mind that, Liz, what was the revenue per round? Do you remember? I think we're closing the gap. The difference is only 38 cents now per round.
Yes.
Whereas it was much larger. So as that mix is shifting and the visitor rounds are continuing to accelerate and the member rounds are decelerating, you are seeing the gap close that you're talking about, just not significantly as what you might expect. Does that kind of make sense?
And I think that's probably very much the case. I know the accompanied member rounds, in my notes, those were below last year for a while, and then all of a sudden we've had this uptick and they're starting to pick up.
Okay.
I can look into that more if you'd like me
We can
to.
talk offline.
For me, I think that thing is going to continue to shift. I spent some time out at the Eastgate Shell Station Saturday mornings, and since June, there have been 2 groups from Little Rock that are in there every Saturday. They've signed up to play here. They're not playing in Little Rock. So as we go down the road, I think more and more that's going to happen. Because they close those 2 golf courses, and these guys love playing here. They say it's great.
I would agree with you totally. I mean, the best of all worlds are the member rounds are up and the non-member rounds are way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, true,
You're right.
true. Anybody else?
Any other questions for Liz? If not, you know you're going to hear from me, right? So a couple questions, and they might be tied together. In your narrative on the first page, you refer to, we do anticipate having capital rollover to complete projects or capital not yet purchased or received, as well as planned street maintenance for rollover 450. Then on the last page, you refer to something that I think might be related, and I wonder if you could just elaborate so I understand a little better. There's a line there called unearmarked escrow and prior year rollover carryover. And that's not crystal clear to me. So what can you do to elaborate?
So in April, we did a year-end of 18 kind of a breakdown. And there was dollars left over either from the escrow funds or in public utilities. There was some excess funds on top of the escrow. We did not put all of that in reserves. You guys had us set some of it aside and said, we'll figure out what we need to do with this based on priorities moving forward. So those funds are still sitting there, some of which I can't remember what part, because you're catching up, got here a little bit, but some of which was included in the plan for Balboa, but isn't necessarily budgeted now. So there are still escrow funds that the board has not directed us how to spend.
Okay.
And then there are some prior year carryover
Okay,
funds
so,
in utilities that are also sitting in an account, waiting for some designation of how those are to be spent.
okay, so for next month, do you suppose you could create a small schedule that kind of outlines all that, not buries it together, so we can kind of see it? It seems like there's a lot bundled together in that $1,765,000 on the last exhibit.
There's $409,000 that utilities roll over, and the rest of it's escrow funds. But yeah, I can break that out for you.
Oh, it's just 2 items?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's probably fairly simple then.
But we can still.
I can break it out.
We can still break that out so we can get a running total of the escrow
Yeah.
spend down.
I think that would be important, you know, we're how many years past the escrow being released, and it's probably good to watch that as an isolated item, so that's good. Also, what capital projects do you expect to carry over, other than, I imagine, the pool? What else? And the roads, of course, we know that.
Not all the roads.
Not all the roads.
Not all of it, just 400, and that's an operating, that was budgeted and operating in 2019, not in capital. So,
Okay,
so, that, and we're kind of working with cash flows right here a little bit towards the end of the year to figure out what else we can do right now. So it's just gonna depend. We may still be working on the EFS project for this building. We've got a lot of stuff that's out to bid and in the works. And so it'll just depend on the timing of when some of those projects complete.
okay, so by December board meeting, you'll probably have greater clarity? Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay.
I just add to that, if you turn to page 9, the statement of capital additions, this always helps me kind of figure out what did we budget and what did we knowingly roll over to spend and what's remaining. And you see that $2.8 million in the far right, what we've not spent as of October. Keep in mind, that's as of October. But you begin to see where those dollars, those significant dollars are in projects not finished. And of course, some of our road paving and stuff happens this time of year. This is when we're doing some of those things. So we'll continue to break that out. But that always gives me a good barometer.
I agree, and I looked at that too, but when you compare the 2.8 million there with the 1.9 million expected rollover, there's a difference, and probably easily explained difference, but.
And it's, I mean, some of it's projects we've completed and we had savings on them, we came in under budget, so there's not spending. I mean, there's some shifts. One of the things that, you know, it's small, but the golf carts are budgeted as capital, but because we're leasing them, they actually end up hitting operating expense, so you have a little bit of a move there. And then there's some projects that, you know, maybe we've gotten into it and it wasn't the priority anymore, and you know, after some of the rollover stuff in particular, after 2 years, maybe we've shifted gears and bought a different piece of equipment or something like that.
Yeah, and I would just say, remember when we do our December meeting, our December financials, we detail those things out. So we will have that very detailed discussion of what was, I mean, not in December, to actually be in the January meeting, I'm talking about December financials, but we'll have that very detailed discussion then, for sure.
Am I correct, if we didn't roll anything over, and we spent the money in all the remaining areas, we'd spend another 2.858 million, correct? Which in turn would reduce our cash equivalents by an equal amount, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And we would also have more revenue, right, so not this particular cash equivalent, but whatever we, you know, get from future utility payments and future assessments, but yes.
Yes.
Which is on that, yeah, that's right, that's on that, yeah, that's right.
Okay, no other questions for Liz? If not, thank you very much.
I have one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not financial, but what is the Wi-Fi expected ballpark estimate to be
We're waiting on Sunlink to wrap up a connection install here at this facility, and then we've got to go into testing. So probably within the month. With the holiday coming up next week, I'm not sure totally what our testing schedule is going to look like, but
Okay, so we're thinking December.
everything is almost completely installed. It's just now fine tuning and testing and getting all the settings set right on it. So.
Okay, very good. At this point, I'd like to invite Pam Avila up to provide the Board of Government Affairs Committee update. And while she comes up, I'd like to mention that Mr. Gary Troutman has joined us. Gary, could you stand up? We'd like to welcome you. Gary is the President and CEO of the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Fred.
Pam, it's all yours.
Thank you. Now, can you hear me? All right. So, as always, I'd like to go into a little bit of explanation about the Governmental Affairs Committee again, because there's still confusion out there about Governmental Affairs Committee versus the Governance Committee. The primary focus of the Governmental Affairs Committee remains on Hot Springs Village relationships with external jurisdictions. We work collaboratively with schools, water, and fire districts, state, county, and municipal governments, departments including highways, planning, broadband, and law enforcement, medical facilities, services and providers, and more. To help make this happen, the GAC members serve on numerous committees outside the village and monitor various organizations, including the Tri-Lakes Metro Planning Organization and the highways, the City of Hot Springs, Garland County, Saline County, Benton Governmental Affairs Committee, the City of Benton and the Benton Chamber. We also have key relationships that are fostered through attendance at the governmental affairs meetings by the superintendents of both Jessieville and Fountain Lake School Districts, the Saline and Garland County Justices of the Peace, and when there is one, the Executive Director of the Hot Springs Village Chamber of Commerce. Our priorities for the year continue to be broadband, spearheaded by Greg Jones, who's been working with Leslie, and on his own has developed working relationships with both Suddenlink and AT&T as he lobbies hard to get better internet service to the village. He's also current on the Rural Broadband Grant and in communication with key players who are working to assure that the grant is available to areas like Hot Springs Village that Leslie already covered. In health services, we're still trying to locate the health services directory that was started 2 years ago as part of the Hot Springs Village Health Services study that was undertaken by members of the Governmental Affairs Committee. Cherry Nelson, our healthcare committee member, recently attended the open house for the new CHI St. Vincent facility outside the West Gate and had very positive things to say about it. In demographics, with Jim Zahn as chairperson, the 2020 Census Subcommittee is preparing to gear up for the 2020 census. Sorry about that. And why do you care about the 2020 census? Because it could have a significant impact when they do realignment and reapportionment that could affect the village. Jim and POA staff liaison Renee Hohen have each attended 2020 complete count training sessions conducted by regional 2020 census partnership specialists. One 2020 census subcommittee subgroup continues to work with state and regional officials and agencies to assure the census designated place for Hot Springs Village is correctly identified, and liaison has been established with the chairs of the Saline County and Garland County Complete Count Committees. Both have been invited to attend the Hot Springs Village GAC's committee meetings. In education, the GAC held its October and November meetings on the campuses of Jessieville and Fountain Lake schools, respectively. At Jessieville, the GAC members toured classrooms and learned more about CTE, which stands for Career Technical Education. and as well as more about the EAST program. For those not familiar with the newer program EAST, which is originally an acronym for something you don't even care about, I'm sure, but it's an educational program that combines elements of technology education, collaborative teamwork, and services learning in a model that stresses student engagement. The village has benefited from some of the Fountain Lake Student East projects, and there will be more opportunities in the future. The CTE and East programs at both Jessieville and Fountain Lake are part of a nationwide effort to ensure there are properly qualified workers entering our workforce nationwide. With almost 1,000 students from the village attending these two schools, it's important for us to be familiar with their programs and their successes. The other current key activity for the GAC is the development of what we call a cheat sheet of local, regional, and state government to help village newcomers in particular understand the various political offices and areas of responsibility for Arkansas. As elections come closer, it's important that the village electorate be educated and knowledgeable voters. The GAC is working on the first step in this process thanks to new committee member Mike Hood. The goal for this year has been to expand our understanding of what goes on outside the village via a speaker at each meeting. In addition to the robust list of speakers that have already come in front of the GAC, including but not limited to Dr. Ross, president of CHI St. Vincent, the Hot Springs City Manager, Met Senator Bill Sample, and Benton Mayor Tom Farmer, the list for the next months is equally robust and relevant. Thanks to the work of one of our other new members, David Childs, the GAC will be hearing from Judge Ayer from Saline County, Judge Mahoney from Garland County, Greg Mabry, president of the Downtown Hot Springs Business Association. We'll be having hopefully both quorum courts, Saline County and Garland County, holding sessions here in the village. And we will be having a speaker from the Arkansas Department of Transportation come and talking to us about what's going on with the highways. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
One thing about the schools, I thought they said 55% of their students come out of the village. Is that what McCarthy said?
It varies with the two schools. For Jessieville, I believe there are close to 500 students coming out, and for Fountain Lake, it's closer to 400.
That's always significant to me because we tend to think not too much about kids, but that's a lot.
It really is, and it is. You're right. It is a large part of, especially the Jessieville school population.
I think the speakers that we have lined up and will have lined up are going to be very good too. It's important that we understand what goes on in the two counties since we're in two counties. A lot of things happen, and I think it's important that we understand the issues that they have because some of them are going to affect us. So long term, we need to understand all of that and proceed accordingly. So this has always been, to me, one of the most important committees we have because Judge Airy and Mahoney and the movers and shakers in those two counties, and even from a state standpoint, are very important to us. So, thank you.
It may not be the most exciting committee, but it is really important.
I just wanted to, as a staff liaison, I wanted to thank Pam for her leadership on this committee, and Mike stole a little bit of my thunder on the people that we've had coming. I remember Pam first mentioned that she wanted to make sure we had very robust, she used that term, very robust sessions each time and good dialogue, and she's delivered on that promise, and of course the entire committee is such a help to all of us, but thanks to Pam for her leadership. Thank you, Pam, for that report.
Okay, at this point, we'll turn to current business. The first item is the 2020 board meeting calendar. Director Campagna.
I move to approve the proposed 2020 board meeting calendar as presented. As a background, to provide public notice to all.
Let's get a second.
Okay.
Okay. Now the background.
To provide public notice to all regular board meeting, for all regular board meeting dates for planning purposes for the board of directors is asked to approve the next year's agenda calendar. Attached is to propose 2020 board meeting calendar based on current meeting schedule of the third Wednesday of each month. Also included is a list of deserved POA holidays. All meetings will be held in this room.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? I only had one thing, where we have the list of the governing documents in the letter. Oh, is that next item? Oh, my mistake. Yep. No comment on this. All right. So the motion to approve the proposed 2020 board meeting calendar as presented. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? The motion stands as approved. Thank you. All right, next motion.
I move to approve the 2020 board election calendar and application for board candidacy as presented.
Is there a second?
Second. Attached is the proposed 2020 board election calendar and application for board candidacy. The board applications must be submitted to the corporate secretary's office by Friday, January 10th. Draw for ballot positions on Wednesday, the 22nd at 10 a.m. in the corporate secretary's office. Ballots mailed on Friday, the February 28th. Ballots returned no later than Wednesday, March 18th at 4 p.m. Election date is Thursday, March 19th, 2020. New board members to be seated at the conclusion of the regular board meeting on April 15th, 2020. Application for candidacy is supported by, and supporting documents is attached. Board of Directors election calendar, Board of Directors candidacy application, letter of applicants with bullet points of governing documents, and website link, advertising agreement. Board election terms that follow bylaws, Article 7, Section 3, term of office.
Okay, any discussion on this item?
When are the applications available?
Can you tell you a minute?
The second.
December 2nd.
The answer is December 2nd.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, now I can ask my question, can't I? On the list of governing documents, the governance committee also says charters are governing documents. I wondered if that wanted to be added to the list. So. Oh, and in addition, the header says Deer Hot Springs Village Property Association member. It's Property Owners Association member. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to make two changes to the supporting documents. One, to change Property Association member to Property Owners Association member on the letter to be sent on December 2nd. And the second change is to add charters to the list of governing documents. No, I need a motion.
Oh, I'm stuck.
So moved. So is there a second? Second, okay. Any discussion on those changes? All in favor of those two changes signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Now we'll vote on the original motion to approve the 2020 board election calendar and application for board candidacy as presented and as modified. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item, Director Medica on golf course maintenance 2020 early order program.
I move to approve the golf course maintenance 2020 early order program as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Each year, pesticide vendors offer an early order program for their products. If Hot Springs Village orders its 2020 pesticide needs between October 1st and December 7th, we will receive a 10% cash rebate. This is in addition to other discounts and rebates Hot Springs Village receives during the year. The orders are non-binding and can be canceled at any time. Hot Springs Village may take delivery of the products anytime in 2020 with payment terms due in May, June, or July, depending on the product. All products are referred to as agency priced, which means the manufacturer sets the price and all vendors must sell the products at that price. The golf course maintenance department will be ordering 21 different products, primarily fungicides used to control diseases on the greens for a total of $285,832. Each product will be delivered and invoiced individually with no invoice will exceed $50,000. The cash rebate of approximately $30,000 will be issued to Hot Springs Village in September 2020. The total 2020 fertilizer and pesticide budget is $654,715. If Hot Springs Village were not to utilize the early order program, we would be purchasing the same products during the year without the $30,000 savings.
Thank you. Any additional discussion?
Is it reasonable for me to assume that we pay sales tax on these items?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so my suspicion is because it's a rebate, we don't get rebated the sales tax associated with the $30,000 rebate. Is that correct?
Probably, yeah. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm sure it is.
I'm not suggesting.
I'm not sure, I don't know what states they don't.
I think we should look into that and see if there's not some way to
Put it
do
on
it.
our tax, on our sales tax form. We can check that out, see if that's.
Okay, any other discussion points? So the motion is to approve the golf course maintenance 2020 early order program as presented. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion stands as approved. We have taken item 14 off of the agenda, so at this point, we will turn to board member comments. Let me start with Director Medica.
Okay. We have re-rated 2 courses. My understanding is Ponce and Magellan have been re-rated for golf. It will be a few weeks before we finalize what has come out of that. The new scorecards were, my understanding is we'd like to have out in January, the first part of the year, because we have to print them up for several months. We have more courses to do, but that's a start. We haven't re-rated our courses in a long time, so that's a step in the right direction. Another thing, the marina foundations are being put in for Balboa. I got taken to task Friday night by somebody who said that forever's been there forever, and it's way past its time frame. And I said, well, I'm hoping they're paying the fines, and they are. You know, they have to have something to, because they sell gas and they sell products for boat people in the marina or on the beach or whatever. But at least it started and should be finished in a reasonable time frame, which would be good. The other thing I heard this morning is that maybe the Eastgate strip mall has been sold. I'm trying to verify that, but the old Cranford store will be turned into a climate-controlled storage is what I have so far. And the Dollar General will move to a new site and install a full-service store. I've never been into Dollar General, so I take that back. I bought a paper in there. But they're grading up there next to tomorrow's, and that may be for that store. I don't know either. There's a lot of activity at Eastgate right now, a lot, which is good.
Thank you, Director Medica. Director Luring? No comments. Director Dixon?
I don't have anything as near exciting as what he just said, but I was delighted to hear that the DeSoto Club, money on meals and the people going to the DeSoto Club has increased, and I think that's great. but I think we owe it to Buddy's Buffet. And so with that, I would like to mention that again this evening at the DeSoto Club, we're having Buddy's Buffet. And a couple of surprises will be thrown in. You're welcome to come. Reservations would be advised. And they've added one extra item. We're going to have meatloaf. If you like meatloaf, it will really be good. But anyway, look forward to seeing you. Buddy's Buffet, 5:30 tonight, DeSoto Club.
And here comes the counter. Director Campagna.
Well, Buddy, thank you for reminding me that we're having Torrey's Buffet at Granada tonight. So, and there's going to be some in the door with clickers at both places.
That's right.
I'd like to make a comment and clear something up that I understand is the case. The memo that we pulled regarding the voice recording and video recording of memos was originally my idea, board members. I want you to remember that. It wasn't because the POA staff thought that that was the right decision. I pulled it for a simple reason. I think there are some issues that need to be addressed in the committees and how they function and how they can function better. Some committees are very good, others there's some things could be better. So I'm recommending to you, Cindy, that we establish some kind of meeting to discuss that, and it should be an open meeting to go through what we could do better in the committees, because the committees are clearly valuable to our success as a village, and we need to make sure we do everything we can to support that. On another issue, it's been indicated in some form of media that this board is going to propose an assessment increase prior to this April of next year. All boards discuss assessment issues from time to time, and I know I discuss that with my friends when I'm playing golf. But if I'm not mistaken, we've never had a discussion about any seriousness ever regarding any assessment prior to the next board. Now, when I was campaigning board, I talked about how there was probably $3 million to be saved out of the expense line. That was overreach. There isn't. And I've also talked about the fact that my displeasure with the owner equity number, and I didn't see where it added a lot of value. I could probably argue that either way. But what's more important in candor is depreciation. If we've got $200 million of assets and they're being depreciated over some useful life, some assets have long useful lives. If anybody ever owns rental property, you know you depreciate the furnace different than you depreciate the carpet and the roof and so forth and so on. Using a number of $200 million, we should be spending in deferred maintenance and or reserving money at the rate of, on a 20-year average life, $10 million a year. We aren't even close. And ultimately, it comes home to roost. It's like the Fram guy. You're going to pay me now or pay me later. And we need to reserve a lot more money, and we need to spend a lot more money. Does that mean down the road something has to give? Absolutely. But it's not going to be given between now and April, that's for sure. And lastly, the reality is we can't approve any assessment increase. It takes the homeowners or property owners, both resident and non-resident, to approve it. So that's my speech on that. Oh, another last thing. If we were getting 300 new rooftops a year, that wouldn't be enough to solve the problem.
Okay, thank you. I have three things I'd like to say before we invite our property owners to come up and address the board. The first is I want to make certain that the community is aware that your board is actively working together to establish a finance committee, a first standing committee, finance committee, in some time, if not ever. RASP, I think, was a committee that fulfilled that function years ago, but we're looking to do that. How we're going about it is not by introducing charter after charter after charter to be approved or not approved, but rather we came together last week as a board and as our senior staff, Leslie and Liz, to talk about where do we have consensus with regard to how this finance committee ought to be organized and how it ought to function, and where do we have disparate thoughts. And it was an extremely productive meeting. We got through about half or more of the discussion points. We're going to conclude that discussion on December 6th, Friday afternoon, December 6th at 2:30. I believe it'll be at the Coronado Center, but watch your email for that. Again, it'll be an open work session, and what we mean by that is the community is welcome to come and watch us deliberate our thoughts so that we can reach consensus. That consensus then will be used to produce a charter that will go through the normal board approval process in a board meeting. We're hoping to maybe have that as new business in December and established in January. That's what we're aiming at, but again, we've got some work to do. And I want to commend the board. I thought we had a fabulous open work session that got us as far as we did. And so time to bring it home and produce that for the benefit of the association and the property owners. The second thing that I want to mention is the governance committee. First of all, every committee, every standing committee, through the bylaws, is empowered to create as many subcommittees as they want to get their work done. The governance committee has chosen to establish a subcommittee for the purpose of reviewing our voting procedures, whether it's for a board election or any other vote that we might take. Tormy Campagna, who serves on the governance committee, will chair that committee. They'll be meeting, I think, for the first time this afternoon to get started, and it includes Keith Keck, Jerry Urick, Jim Zahn, and Renee Haugen. I think you'll agree with me that these are the most knowledgeable people in the association for not only understanding the history of how we have conducted our elections and votes, but our best position to make recommended policy changes. They will be bringing those recommendations to the governance committee, at which point we'll examine the recommendations against all other governing documents to make certain that there's no conflicts of what they're recommending against other governing documents. And then quickly we'll be bringing that to the board as new business for their consideration, policy changes, potentially bylaws changes, and procedures changes. So our whole goal, of course, is to get these things in place before the next board election. So thank you, those of you that have stepped up to help us with that. And my third and final item is we have our last Let's Talk for the year. That's the opportunity for 3 board members to field any questions from our community. It will take place this Saturday, which is November, I believe, 23rd at the DeSoto Center at 9 in the morning, right? And the directors that will be there include Director Luring, Director Campagna, and myself. So we hope that you come. We have 9 people signed up so far. As a board, we said if we don't get 10, we probably will call it off for lack of interest. So hopefully we don't have lack of interest. We'd like to go forward. So we do encourage you to sign up. There will be a link in Friday's Village Digest for you to sign up and let us know what is on your mind. So please come.
Ms. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I apologize, but I forgot one thing. We have in the audience today, Nikki Choice. I believe you're here. Could you stand up a minute? Nikki is our new chairman and head of the Comprehensive Master Plan Advisory Committee. We welcome her for that job. I believe she's going to do a super job, but I'd like for all of you to see who she is and know. So thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, we would like to hear from our guests. As you recall, there's a 3-minute time limit. I'll be calling them up individually. At 2 minutes and 45 seconds, we'll have a notice that will go off so that you can conclude your comments quickly before the 3 minutes is over with. I would like to start first with Cindy Gantz. Please, Cindy.
and gentlemen of the board and neighbors, we are coming up on our 50th anniversary. In those 50 years, we have developed quite a paradise that we all love and want to see remain healthy. We, the people, are at a crossroads. Our financial stability is in question. The future of this community must be totally dependent on vigorous two-way communication that must be based solely on facts. The decisions on finances must be understood by the average property owner, so it will need to be concise while being robust, and the message needs to be exactly the same to the entire village. I have proposed a neighborhood alliance consisting of 21 districts, each with a representative speaking for and with their neighbors to further our communication based on facts. Your current communications on the village website and the Voice newspaper and at the various meetings will only be enhanced with the alliance. Let me be real. The village does have an alternative communication system. Bridge Club on Monday, Bunko on Tuesday, Carpenters Club on Wednesday, golf on Thursday, and Sunday church. Whether we like it or not, the information, good, bad, or indifferent, is disseminated at the neighborhood level. That's where most of the citizens get the information to form their thinking on how they are going to vote on the critical decisions facing the village. This week I've read many articles on Nextdoor and 3 stood out. If I were to believe the data, I would come away with the idea that the village is quite literally under siege, that our budget was approved flash bang boom with no input from anyone, and that there is a financial attack brewing, and even with a vote it will be taxation without representation. All of these people are credible, respectable neighbors. Some work on committees and subcommittees. Based on these articles, I truly don't know what to think, but I won't lie. Moving away has briefly crossed my mind. Like me, many people living here today have raised their families, helped our parents in their last days, worked their jobs, donated time and money to worthy causes, and like me, we're tired. We want to focus on ourselves in the autumn of our lives. We want to focus on our health, our clubs, and maybe still volunteer just as you, the board of directors, are selflessly doing. I am asking for your written commitment to support the Neighborhood Alliance and our goals. The main alliance goal is to facilitate promotion of community and neighborhood. In its infancy, the alliance will work to foster this by having the actual facts go to each district for dissemination by the Neighborhood Alliance representative. Each neighborhood will hold monthly meetings to ensure accurate data is gathered and that their neighbors have a place to go to voice concerns and bring forward great ideas. The truth is that without this alliance, without factual financial information, we are individually and as a community at financial risk. Truth must be relevant. It can't be decision by gossip or innuendo. Other than salaries and personnel issues, all decisions made by the board have to start with open dialogue, so conspiracy theories are few and far between. In closing, thank you for the 3 minutes. It's not long enough. And please, everyone, sign up by the door to make the alliance a reality and take a flyer on your way out. My contact information is on the sheet. Thank you.
Thank you. I bet you practiced that, didn't you? Because that was precisely 3 minutes. Cindy, thank you very much. Thank you for addressing us. Okay, Sonia Shelf would like to talk with us about DeSoto Entertainment. Sonia.
I'm trying to get your legs, Sonia, just 1 second.
All right, don't say anything.
No.
Just a moment.
Please start, Sonia.
Oh, you're ready? Okay, thank you, Sonia.
Let me see, I think we need to get a little closer to the mic. What I would like to address this afternoon, or this morning rather, is I have been told there will no longer be entertainment after the month of November at the DeSoto Club. I would like for that decision to be reconsidered. I know that revenue for the clubs is very important. Having been there on most evenings when Marcus Sugg and Eastbound and Down in particular have entertained, I see a lot of people having cocktails, some ordering only appetizers, but many ordering the wonderful prime rib on those evenings. I would like for that to be reconsidered. I know it is not being marketed well, for one thing. I'm wondering how many people here don't even realize that there is free entertainment at the DeSoto Club on Saturday nights. And I would just like to ask that the board and the Food and Beverage Committee reassess that decision and maybe change it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sonia. Next up, Ken Betts, who would like to speak with us about a rumor with regard to committees. I'm intrigued.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you folks? The rumor's not about committees. Taking off what Cindy said, she doesn't know this, but I heard a rumor. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, the rumor I heard is that if we send a personal email to an individual board member, that it gets, automatically disseminated through every other board member. If I send a letter to Buddy Dixon for your eyes only, does it stay to your eyes? Can you clarify that rumor?
As far as I know, it stays.
Okay, fine, thank you, appreciate that. About committees, let me just share some thoughts with you. They're my thoughts, nobody else's. I'm thinking about applying to one of Tormay's Public Works Committee. He and I chatted about it a little bit. And I got 30 years experience as an engineer with an automobile company, so perhaps it'd be a good fit, perhaps not, I don't know. I would enjoy the challenges, enjoy the responsibilities, but it would require some authority to exercise those responsibilities. I don't want to be a bump on the log. However, talking about committees a little more in depth, I think it was last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago, Donna Hallward was here and she had a very in-depth presentation to you people about the physical fitness center and so on. And Donna does not know I'm blindsiding her. I've not talked to her about this. I don't even know her. But anyway, what I witnessed at our last boarding was almost a total lack of interest and respect from our board members regarding her presentation and recommendation. Now, that's my opinion. Now, Donna seemed very smart. She seemed intelligent. She came well prepared. I think she's an Ivy League graduate. I think she deserves to be heard. She's also head of our local bank, whose logo adorns our banner at our tennis courts. Her bank historically has sponsored a few events in the village. She's chairman of our fitness center committee as well. Anyway, the response from the board was something less than stellar. Just my thoughts, but I think our board, both collectively and singularly, owe Donna a sincere apology for your performance. Other opinions may vary. So the question I ask, if the board doesn't listen to someone as qualified as Donna, what are the chances you would ever listen to me as a lowly Public Works Committee member? So for me, I guess I'm looking at you instead of Cindy. So talk to me, enlighten me. We as a community we have a feeling that we're left out. Okay, so enlighten me a little bit if you'd be so kind. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you. We don't engage in dialogue here at this portion of the, okay, all right. Well, we're happy to talk with you afterwards if you'd like to come up. Thank you. Sue Sutley would like to talk with us about, or speak to us about compliance. Sue?
Good morning. My name is Sue Sutley and I live at 30 Linder Way. Insubordination's definition includes disrespect or harassment that is directed toward a supervisor. Because the board is an employer, thus you are the supervisor. If insubordination is allowed to occur unchecked, the end result is chaos. This is why the military, classrooms, corporations address this issue swiftly and seriously. Often, the military punishment is a court-martial. That's how serious insubordination is to morale and the welfare of any organization. Once it is allowed to fester, it rears its ugly head over and over again, as evidenced by another attack on one of your all and our own. I know the ACC works very hard to keep uniformity and appropriate color choices in regards to signs. And obviously, the RV sign on Valeric and the pickleball windscreens are non-compliant. So where does the blame for this fall? In my opinion, it must be due to the staff person who was in charge and their failure to follow the compliance mandates and work with the ACC. So insubordination not only repeats, but spreads throughout the organization when allowed. I say all this to respectfully suggest there must be, for the sake of the health of our association, not only swift, but serious repercussions for insubordination. Ms. Erickson, Mr. Capania, Mr. Medica, Mr. Dixon, and Ms. Loring, I implore you to do the hard thing and do not allow this attack to our association to continue. You are the only ones who can. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Cheryl, you would like to speak with us about the website.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Cheryl Dowden, Madam Chair. Thank you to the board and management for all your hard work. HSVpeople.com makes every attempt, even though we don't have to allow commenting. If you post curse words, pornography, or are a troll, your comments may not be allowed to stand. This is standard for websites. This morning, 2 esteemed and valued members of our community were attacked in a personal and untruthful manner on hsvpeople.com. These comments were removed. As Leslie Nally, our CEO, has stated, this anonymous person contacted her to complain about us removing these untruthful and personal attacks on 2 esteemed and valuable villagers. I'm surprised our CEO supported letting these comments stay. HSVpeople.com is not causing the problems in the village. These problems are caused by someone else. Now you know the rest of the story. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Stephen Rust. I left you for last because you said your topic was unknown, so.
That's fine. I've chosen not to speak. I yield my time back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. At this point, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, we stand adjourned.
I know.